121 here in Kingston. The cool crew peeps here with church. Okay. Yeah, man. I'm going to do the invitation real quick. We'll get some people in the room. Just a few seconds. So John, Aaron, one more link to these guys. Pastor should start up live here right away. And the minute it starts here, we'll see it go. We'll see the. So let's see. Go live, go live. We're always worried about the internet here in Jamaica. Hoping that we'll get some. I'm not sure if they can see it. Showing up here. John Burfellow in the house. How's it going, John? I'm gonna give 5. Sam, is that in the house? I can't see you guys. Oh, Todd is saying it's a bad link. All right, well, copy. Let's try that link again. Ah, there we go. There we go. Well, here. Oh, good, good. That's what I like to hear. Let me mute my mic so you guys can talk. Go ahead, Etienne, take the mic. You have no background noise.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Hash Church. As you can see, everybody, Bubble Man is in Jamaica. As you see, oh wait, let me turn off my sound there on the, I'm getting a little overlap. Okay. All right. Well, as we know, everybody, Bubble Man is in Jamaica. We are live at Hash Church. He is on the East Coast time, so that's why it's a little brighter there today, and he's got his sunshades on because he's in, I do believe you're in Kingston, Jamaica, if you're still there today. You do have a little bit of laggy, but that's just how it goes. I want to send a shout out initially. We lost another great activist this week here in Oakland. He was only 25 years old, Alex Zavell. Really sad to see. He was a strategist with the Rob Rache's office, and don't know the cause of death yet, but 25 and a strong activist here in the Bay Area. He was a brilliant young strategist, just, I do believe, got out of law school and was working with Rob Rache on things here in the Bay Area. So sorry to start off with some bad news, but had to send out some love and respect to Alex and to everybody in the Bay Area community because we're kind of hurting right now. But besides that, I wish and hope everybody's having a wonderful 2017 so far. Good morning, Todd. How you doing?
I'm breathing, definitely breathing. Turns out breathing. So that's up.
Breathing is good. Everybody's good. Hi, John. Hope you're doing well. Bubble Man, doing well. And good to see you, Sam.
Good to see you, too. And every day I wake up, I'm a happy guy. I'm still alive.
Yeah, grateful for another day, for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to send up a dabs up initially, straight up for this one's for Alex and his family and friends.
I'm going to see if I turn my camera off, if I can get rid of a little bit of my lag here. I'm hoping that I can. I definitely want to do a hash turn. People here are playing some incredible music.
We're hearing you. So what's your team going on there? You got a team of great artists? Welcome, Indra.
Aside from the Congos, Prophecy is here. Welcome, Indra.
Good morning.
Got my camera. Might have to keep my camera turned off today, gentlemen, just so I can keep the lag from happening and at least a couple of hours of hash church here. Tony's on a flight right now. He's landing in Atlanta probably in the next 4 or 5 minutes, so we may see him come on his Jamaica gallon compressor and a V2 Sasquatch press. Unreal. Welcome, Mark Scaldone.
Hey, how's it going, Marcus? How you doing down there?
Well, dude, it's going terrible. I saw that you posted about Paul Hornby had a horrible. He's in some bad situations, so we got to say a shout out to Paul. Hope that he's in better shape. And we also heard a rumor yesterday that Chronix was in a very, very bad car accident. Young kid in critical condition at UE Hospital right now. This is the rumor. We're not 100% sure, as it's only really been broken amongst smaller Jamaican magazine and websites. But yeah, terrible news, you know. Always terrible news to hear people having a rough start to the year.
Well, we hope you're having a good and safe one. How is the weather and how's the herb there?
Well, the weather is sweet, as they say. And as Bob, and the herb is wonderful and pervasive. Even at my 4.5-star hotel, when I went out on the deck, it was gone everywhere. Incredible. Everywhere I go in the streets, I see that the Jamaican people are smoking with much more, I guess, they're a lot more confident in their smoking. They're not hiding it. They don't have to, you know, they're able to carry a little more than they maybe would have prior to having that door open with the smell of herb, which when you're allowed to have herb, even if it's a small amount, cops are less likely to want to search you for larger amounts. So it's the old foot in the door that we've talked about with OMA, the foot in the door that we talked about with the federal project here in Canada. It's, you know, it's better than nothing, guys. Keep getting your foot in the door and don't accept nothing as an alternative to something.
Right. Don't forget that this is a psychological battle that we are overcoming, because there's a lot of prejudice against us, and it's going to take small victories, albeit so small we almost don't want them, but it's going to take these little steps for us to get where we want to be in the eyes of society, which is just normal. Leave us alone.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see
Unfortunately, it is.
the individuals taking a little more enjoyment of their freedom, which I think has got to embolden others around them and all throughout Jamaica, yes?
There's too many of us for them to leave us alone. Everywhere they turn around, there are one of us standing there with a dab.
Yeah, I don't want to be normal. You know, I want to be the weirdo I am.
You can be the weirdo you are, but I'd like to be treated equally with beer drinkers, wine drinkers, cigarette smokers, the rest of society. They can do shots of whiskey and not be looked down upon like they're hippie trash is all. I just want to be treated fairly.
Damn, I don't want to be looked at like beer drinkers and cigarette smokers and alcohol, all the rest of that, man. Dude, what's up? I want to be looked at along with this, you know, the saints and the hash gurus from the mountains and so forth. Fuck those cigarette and alcohol people. They're all they're smoking and drinking poison. God,
I don't disagree with you, but when you go to events like the Emerald Cup and you feel the community, you know, shaping around you, and it's no different than a beer fest or a wine, you know, day. That's what I'm talking about. You know, we should be able to be free to sip our whiskey and make friends just like those other people are allowed to do.
Well, at the cup, what was fascinating is that as we were walking around, we got to go by the fenced-in areas for the alcohol people. So we got to walk around and smoke while the alcohol people were fenced into their little old tribes of alcohol tribage. So it was very interesting to see that dichotomy go down as we were just walking around with Indra and getting high and watching everybody all penned up for their alcohol.
Yeah, I want more freedom, but let's start with equal freedom.
In Denver, you could actually smoke. In some, you could consume cannabis. In some, they don't, you know, have anyone enforcing it. But they make the cigarette smokers go outside. So the cannabis smokers, yeah, you're welcome in the club. Cigarettes, oh no, you got to go outside to do that.
Well, the worst thing that happened at the Cup, in my opinion, was standing in line to get in, which took 2.5 hours. And then standing in another line for nearly 2 hours to get the 2:15 thing, getting it, feeling all happy about it, going outside, getting a dab, and then finding out you weren't allowed to go back out to the goddamn food section anymore. What kind of communist Nazi fucker thought that up?
No, that's not true. You could go in and out of the 215 section once you had
If you had a one-day pass, you weren't allowed to.
Well, next year we go, you can come with me and I'll make sure you have more than a one-day pass. I didn't know that was your limitation.
Oh yeah, I tried to go back out to get something and they said, no, you're not allowed to go back out to get food or anything. And I thought, wow, how could that even be? That is the most amazing statement I heard at the Cup was, you're not allowed to go back out and get food on a one-day pass. And I thought, what kind of evil person would allow stoners to get really high?
See,
and
I don't know if that's the case, because really, with a one-day pass, you still had the whole grounds. You couldn't leave like we could leave and come back into the venue. So you couldn't leave the venue, but you could go in and out of the 215 zone. It's
And doesn't the conventions at those kinds of events help pay
John.
for everything, right? Don't the food concessions help pay for everything? You'd think that they
No, Mark,
actually
you had
encourage.
access to the food. What he's talking about is he couldn't leave the venue and come back. He could leave the 215 area, go to the other area, get food, go back to the 215 area.
Well, it sounds like John needs an escort next year.
Thanks.
Agreed. On our
An escort.
A motorized wheelchair with a hash church flag.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually.
So,
You know, 2.5 hours to get in the first place is a little nuts. You would think they would have had 5 or 6 openings at the gate, so a bunch of lines could go in instead of having all of us stand outside for so long. And then equally with the 215 line, it was very poorly organized, and you had to stand in line forever to get your 215. And I guess maybe I'm the only one in the world who feels like it, but afterwards, if you had a single day pass, you weren't allowed to go back out and get food, even though propaganda has it otherwise. That's my anecdotal evidence. I wasn't allowed back out to get food. But anyway.
Was your food in your car?
No, you weren't allowed to go back out even to the food vendors and get food. I just had a one-day pass. I had
Not to be rude, you're completely wrong. And once you had the medical ban, you could go anywhere you wanted. It's just you needed the medical ban to get in the 215 area. Maybe you're a little high and didn't realize you could leave the 215 area, but that's the only limitation you had, was not leaving the venue. You couldn't leave the Sonoma County Fairgrounds. There was no readments. But you could leave the 215 area, go get food, go back. I did it like a dozen times. All you had to do is show your band when you walk past the people. That's it.
I went out there and I started to go out, and they stopped me and asked me if I had a different kind of pass. And all I had was that wristband. And I said no. And a little lady who was running it on that side told me to stand off to the side and she'd find out what was going on. And after another half an hour of standing there, that was about when the time I called you guys and said, hey, where are you guys at? And then we played tag for an hour or so, going back and forth across the grounds.
We were going back and forth between 215 and the food court because we had the munchies.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did, no doubt.
We did have the munchies. Not a lie, that's not a lie.
So, Bubble Man, what's going on there in Jamaica? There, we got a video again.
I'm just sitting here poolside, I guess you could say, at the friend's house here, who is kind enough to. Let me see if I can walk you guys over to the musicians that are sitting at their instruments. I'm not sure if my instrument. I'm sure you. Hello. This is a beautiful room full of records here. You can see they've got an incredible record collection at this studio here.
What is the recording studio's name?
I'm not sure actually, but it's up in Stonehill is the neighborhood. So.
I like the name, Stonehill. Sounds like you found the band.
Cabin is so awesome, and it's like alkaline water. I tell you, it's like water, pure.
And then help you play the drums nice after?
Yes, to the highest level.
All right, so. Well, I'm out on the deck here. I'm not sure if I've still got a solid net connect. Beautiful countryside up here in uptown Jamaica. Some beautiful rainbows.
Choppy Bong,
Prophecy.
Rip, take one.
There's prophecy in the house. See?
Yeah, but
Wicked. Wicked. We're going to hear from prophecy. And yeah, see if we can squeeze through back here. Let me see. Cutting up the. Yes, always giving thanks and always giving praises. All right, we good? Back to the better internet connections, so we don't lose you. Hopefully, they'll be in the next hour or two. I wanted to get a couple of live songs for you guys to hear today on Hash Church, where YouTube won't copy. I can't believe John was in Mexico City. Are you guys all hearing me, by the way, just so I'm not...
Yes, I was in Mexico City.
Are you here?
Yes, we tried so hard to get into fish. And the best part about it is people, I was sitting outside of my thing, people walk by, hey, John. I was wearing my Blue River shirt. People were shouting out. I was standing in the lineup where it says check in, like, hey, John. And it was like people recognized. It was pretty epic. We took cabs there. We tried to get in, talk to the guys. We did everything. I even tried to rent a boat to get into the front.
John, you should have reached out to me, John. I could have probably helped you with tickets, buddy.
Yeah, I needed a code. I didn't even think about it, Mark. But you know what? I just got to go next year. But Jamaica was
just going to make it. That's awesome, John. Very awesome. Sorry that you missed the show, but Mark was nice enough to send me a link to. I got to watch a little bit of it, and it was very enjoyable. Thank you, Mark. I'm sorry that the Nug police shut us down and took alignment, but hey.
Did I send you that Google Drive link, Mark?
No, I don't. Well, no, I don't. I got a YouTube link from you.
Okay, I'm gonna send you a link to a bunch of videos on a Google Drive.
Oh, nice.
Like you need more access to fish video.
I do. I'm telling you. Anytime you send me anything fish, I'm quite happy about it. Let me tell you. Did you hear about Paul Hornby, John?
I'm just going to say that that's me being in a few tears over the gentleman. Dr. Paul Hornby was in a bad accident and he suffered severe brain trauma. He's in emergency surgery from what I'm hearing. This was in the last day or two and he's in critical care and ICU recovering. So vibe is going up to Paul. That guy who really showed me everything about cannabis and cannabinoids and taught me a lot of research around cannabis and the plant. And told me how to decarboxylate and really gave me my education on what I talk about here today and everything and how cannabis saved my life. That man showed me a way of being able to get off of pharmaceutical drugs and deal with chronic pain that no one else ever happened with. And really tried to pump pharmaceutical drugs in me and stuff. And Paul just kept trying to give me cannabis decarboxylated. And the research and the years I spent with the man, it was an honor to be with him, honor to spend the time I was with him. And I wish him the strongest and biggest vibes in his recovery, and I know he's going to be all right. And he will, well, I'm going to go see him in the hospital today, try and get down there so I know where he is. I'm just in the middle of emails and stuff, so it'll be a short hash trip for me. I can see it kind of bothers me a little bit, so all right for Paul.
Sorry to see you upset, and we hope nothing but the best and a speedy recovery. Man, it's been a rough 27 so far.
Yeah.
For our community, at least.
You know what? He's a great man, and he did a lot of research and a lot of help. He helped a lot of people. So, I mean, I know there's a lot of people fighting and a lot of people praying for him. So, see you soon, my friend. That's all I have to say. So, okay.
Let this be a reminder to everybody to say I love you to those you know and love around you, because as we know already, as I saw, Alex was 25. We lost Franco, who was 42. So, you know, life can
Yeah, look at
You
Frank.
know, you get what we all get, as they say, a lifetime, and that's different for every single one of us. So,
John, did you say this was a car accident?
I don't know the full details right now, Mark. I know it was a bad accident. He suffered severe trauma to the head. There's some others.
It's kind of like a subtle reminder that the most dangerous thing that all of us do probably every day is drive a vehicle. And driving a vehicle is extremely, you don't think about it because it's just so natural that, you know, you get in your car, you turn it on and you pull out of the driveway and you just drive down the road. But it's really the most dangerous thing that most humans do every day. Drive around and, you know, these buckets of, you know, a couple tons of steel at, you know, accelerated speed. So yeah, you can do all kinds of damage. So maybe just a note to think about, you know, driving safely. If there was a car
mark, they're total death traps. People don't realize it until they get into an accident, and then it changes their habits significantly.
Yeah.
I think right. So that was
here's to every single heart and ear that is listening. I love every single being that's alive as deep and as much as I can. We're all here and we're all in it together. And the only way we're going to get out of it is one by one as we come to realization. I hope he's better, Johnny. I hope he has. Heal him in your heart.
Oh, he's in my heart. I caught wind of it when I landed on the tarmac. I got in the car and Hetty, the person taking me out, told me, because you're going to hear about it. I got to tell you right now that Paul was in a very bad accident. I just I spent the morning trying to get a hold of family. Wife's in Europe, so I don't know what he was here to see his son, and there was his son had I won't get into some personal stuff, but anyways, yeah, I know he's going to be fine, and with that, just kind of one of those things. It's you know, somebody that you care about, and the people you know, and the people you see every day. You never know when that will be the last time you see them. I mean, I met Paul after I was hit head on by a dump truck, and after that, I suffered. I was in a coma. I came out. I started using cannabis, and then several years later, after being hooked on heavy pharmaceutical drugs due to the car accident, I met Dr. Paul Hornby, and he said that's going to kill you. And I spent years with him, and he helped me get off of pharmaceutical drugs using amino acids, natural supplements, converted forms of THC, and we're published on natural cannabis and standardized pain management. And we've done lots of research with Paul on pain control and opiate addiction and alcoholism and stuff like that, using cannabis and CBD to get off of those addictive pharmaceutical drugs and other drugs that are not good for our bodies, right? But cannabis truly is a savior, and it saves so many people's lives. And it's just good to see that the research has been done, and hey, you know, it's just it's moving more and more every day. It's great to see.
But it's a reminder is for everybody to go out and be a Paul, because just as those people who reached out to every single one of us with cannabis, don't forget to reach out to other people with cannabis. You know, I had a bizarre when I was out dating. I was on an app for dating and saw somebody who was a woman who was in a cancer ward, and she just wanted someone to talk to. So I just went and talked to her and hung out with her and turned her on to cannabis, and it ended up changing her life. And same way as when that doctor told me to try this, you know, so go out there and don't forget to be a Paul. Don't forget to reach out a hand and save someone else's life and give them an opportunity to escape the pharmaceutical world if they have the opportunity, because if you don't lead them the way, who will?
It's not only changing their life, it can also change the way they die. My wife was in the hospital with liver failure, and she got a transplant. And while she was there, I was visiting her, and I saw a lady who was in pancreatic cancer, and she was dying. And she asked me, how can I get cannabis to smoke in the hospital? And, you know, nobody would help her or anything. So in the end, I just gave her cannabis so that she could get, and she said it gave her more relief than anything else. And it turns out that, you know, opiates are not particularly effective for pancreatic cancer pain, or else it's such severe pain that, you know, that people really need help sometimes, and you just got to sort of stick your neck out and help them.
Yeah, one of the reasons
Yeah.
we had done hospice, we started hospice for a while at BPG, is because we found out after the fact that some of our patients had died from their relatives, and it made us wonder, wow, were they wondering where their cannabis was or if they could have access to cannabis? So out of that, we started a hospice service, which lasted for a while. It's very difficult to manage.
At least the hospitals here were reasonable. They knew she was dying, so they weren't worried about cannabis ruining her life.
Much respect and for trying and helping in there, because exactly that, here in America, that's not the case.
The
I was
whole
going to just
reason.
say, Etienne, what you just said there is about going out and spreading the word. Paul said that Paul was one of the biggest part of being created is I want to tell the world how cannabis saved my life, and he gave me that I guess the fuel to do what I do. I want to tell the world on how it changed me, because after I ate that first beautiful brownie, I'll never ever forget how it took that pain away and how it changed it. And that's really where I stand today. That's why I preach this every day, is how cannabis is truly the best thing you can ever have in life.
Yeah.
Sorry,
When I
Todd.
was a kid, the catalyst for my activism was I was doing well responding to cannabis treatment, or I was responding well smoking joints and dealing with chemotherapy, and my doctors wanted me to talk to another kid that was going to do the same thing on the same medication, but don't tell them you smoke pot. And I literally looked up at my doctor, and said, "You want me to lie to him?" And he said, "Okay, this isn't going to work." And he walked me back to my mom. And that moment was really the moment that I felt obligated to share with others what cannabis was doing for me, because I just felt like other people suffering, when you had a gift to give them that could alleviate it, was like the cruelest thing you could do to not give it to them. So that's why I'm here doing Hash Church. That's why I've made movies. That's why I work on books. That's why I'm trying to get the word out, because I feel almost guilty for how much cannabis helped me. And I hope and I wish, I don't pray, but I care that much that it helps and has the opportunity to help absolutely everybody else.
Amen, Todd. I feel the exact same way. Thanks for saying that.
My
Yeah,
dad,
I see it in everybody that gets sick. There's like a camaraderie that happens, where we all want to bond together and help one another out. And in some ways, I think that the cancer rates going up and us getting sick is almost a good thing, because it might force compassion where there otherwise was not.
my dad died of bone and lung cancer at the same time. And when I finally got the word from my mother that he was passing, I went to the hospital. Here was a 6'4" guy who weighed 128 pounds. And I asked him if he would do one thing for me, and he said he would. And so I gave him a brownie. And he nibbled on it all day long. I started it around 10 o'clock in the morning, and around 2:30 or 3 o'clock, he looked over at me and he said, "Hey, John." And I said, "Yeah, Pop." And he said, "What do you think about going over to Hooters and getting me a dozen wings?" And my dad hung on for another 8 months after that, but he also went back to 166 pounds. He looked like a normal person again. And it was because I fed him a hash brownie every single day. And that he kept it from me that he knew. And I finally, after about 3 weeks, I told him, and he says, "Well, that's no surprise." He says, "I'd known all along." And I said, "Well, isn't this the first time you ever had it?" And he said, "No, when I was in North Africa during World War II, the Muslims didn't have any wine, but they had plenty of hash."
Come on, tell the truth, John. It was the Hooters wings.
And that.
The magical healing power of wings.
Of breasts.
Just being high every day gave him an appetite for a change, and that was what was beautiful about it, because I would watch him turn away the hospital food time after time after time, and it would break my heart, because I was sitting there watching a guy who was a champion boxer in the MPs for 16 years and who was my hero, and he was fading away like an ash from a burnt Kleenex. And when he decided to have the brownies, it made a quantitative and a qualitative change in his life. And I thought then, I hadn't realized up till then how powerful a thing pot could be in somebody's life who was suffering at end time or an illness like that. And it was a real eye-opener for me. I mean, I've been involved in pot all along, but I hadn't really had that kind of personal interaction where someone was passing away, and I was able to middleman some to them and listen to them change.
With me, it was 1971. I was in Essaouira, and I had explosive vomiting and diarrhea. I mean, it was horrible. I was just sitting on a squat toilet for hours. And so just for the hell of it, I tried smoking some hash. And all of the spasms in my stomach and the explosive crapolas both went away, and I was able to at least stand it for the next day or two until it went away.
Yeah, that's a potent moment when you come to realize that here is this simple thing that can do stuff that pharmaceutical medicine doesn't even touch or come close.
I had read about the medical uses of cannabis in India and by the troops of Napoleon, so and the works by O'Shaughnessy. So I intellectually I knew it, but you're right. It was like a light went on in my brain, and I went, "Wow, this stuff really does have medical applications."
Yeah, I can still remember my first bong in India. You know, it was like a little milkshake. Anyway, I didn't know what it was at first, and they told me, "Oh, it's like a little milkshake. It's a fresh little milkshake," and they brought it and gave it to me, and I drank it, and I thought it tasted pretty powerful. But it had a lot of local yogurt and yogurt-like pudding that they added to it to make it sweet. And about 45 minutes later, I was canceled. I just realized all of a sudden I came on, and I was so high, I couldn't find my butt pocket with both hands.
Yeah, we've all had real medical epiphanies around cannabis. It's totally true, you know.
Yeah, bang lassi, wonderful things.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and it's great to see more and more people getting into eating it as cannabis becomes legal, because it's like stealth consumption, you know, where smoking a joint and the smell of the joint would always get us caught or busted. Now, you know, you could be, you know, nibbling on a potent chocolate chip cookie and nobody's the wiser.
You know, I have a lassi and a cookie bar in every hospice where you can go and get a lassi and a pot cookie, and you know.
You know, I have a great bang lassi recipe if everybody wants to hear it.
Fire. Let's hear it.
All right, so this is just made with ground leaf. I'm not kidding you. This is just made with ground leaf. What you do is you need non-fat yogurt because you need the lecithin in the yogurt. So you take the yogurt and the cannabis, and you put it along with, if you want some fruit for flavor, you put it into a blender, and you blend it for minimum 20 minutes.
Wow.
Now, what happens during that time is it heats up, and a chemical process happens where the lecithin breaks down the cannabis. And after 20 minutes, I recommend adding some ice and a little bit of sugar, and mix that together in just a cup. We use just a tablespoon of ground leaf per person. Okay, so just that. Put into the initially when you ground it, and then after 20 minutes, add ice to cool down, and then drink just a cup. And do not do it at a party. The party's over. Everyone's going to sleep. But I have found that to be a very successful bang lassi recipe. You can add any type of fruit. The key is it has to be fat yogurt, not non-fat yogurt. That is the key there. And blend for 20 minutes with the cannabis, and then cool down with ice. And needless to say, enjoy the ride.
We do exactly the same recipe, but we use a spoonful of dry sift.
Jesus Christ.
Remember at my house 20 years ago, 18, I was taking the dry sift and I was just basically melting it into the hemp seed oil on my stove and then putting that in my edibles.
Oh yeah, I remember. I think.
I remember our friend sleeping from Saturday till Monday. I remember that clearly.
I remember the couch being completely occupied. Yeah.
Yeah. Careful with that resin powder is all I'm saying.
So in those preparations, you're not decarbing. That's THCA, right?
No, it decarbs in hot oil because I was just putting the oil in a pan, hemp seed oil, and then heating it up and then mixing in.
Yeah, I was talking about the lassi preparation.
Oh yeah, the lassi.
Sorry,
Yeah.
my bad.
Yeah, the lassi recipe. That's because it heats up because of the blending with the yogurt for 20 minutes causes it to heat up, and that heating causes the decarboxylation, which breaks down. For some reason, the lecithin really breaks down so you can absorb it better in your gut. So when you take it, the uptake is much quicker and easier.
Traditional Indian lassis will boil the ganja or the leaves or the whatever it is, the cannabis, in boiling water for half an hour.
Okay,
So
now that decarboxylates.
That's it exactly.
Yeah, but the process that Etienne described, if you just take yogurt and you blend it up, I don't think that gets really warm enough for it to.
Oh, 20 minutes? Trust me, dude. Go ahead and go get a blender and you go try it and you put your hands on it and you will feel the heat. That's why we add ice to it in the end, because it's not as palatable as warm as it is, but once it's cooled off.
With resin, if it's not fully carboxylated, all you have to do is add, like 30, 40 times as much. It works out fine.
Yeah. That's all I have to do.
But remember, I'm only using leaf. He's using straight up resin glands, and I found it to be just fine for novices or people who are medium to light users just with the leaf alone because of the heat transfer that happens and the breakdown that actually happens. Trust me, Mark, try it and let me know, and you'll be like,
well,
oh.
I'm curious because, decarboxylation happens at room temperature. So, it just happens really slowly. So as soon as you start heating it up, you're going to start accelerating that reaction. So yeah, in the blender, there is some, turbidity and there is heat, but
I would say,
I'm wondering, go ahead, Sam.
Really slowly. I mean, we stored cannabis for 2 years and most of it was not. In fact, hardly any of it was decarboxylated.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if there's some kind of probiotic in the yogurt itself that's catalyzing the decarboxylation. That could very well be happening. Catalysts decarboxylate all the time, and so what the catalyst does is it just lowers the activation energy needed to get full and complete decarboxylation. Yeah. Maybe there's something in the biological soup of yogurt that essentially is catalyzing the decarboxylation of THCA. If that's happening, then that's really fucking cool.
I highly recommend looking into it because it was, like I said, incapacitating, so they knew there's effect that's taking place. And the onset is pretty quick, too. It's within a half hour to 45 minutes. The party's very much over.
Yeah, so have you ever tested these things for whether it's THCA or THC?
No, this is 20 years ago. I haven't played with that stuff in years.
THCA didn't exist 20 years ago.
Well, I didn't have laboratories to actually test. Remember, we had to do that 10 years ago. So we've only had that for 10 years. So
I tell you what, if you do that now, if you mix up yogurt and cannabis, and you find out that lowers the decarboxylation temperature, the decarboxylation threshold, my friend, is an invention. That's a patent because you can't predict that until you do the experiment.
Mark, I was testing on Etienne. Come on, just shh. He was so willing. What can I say?
Research monkey.
Hey, Etienne, want a muffin?
Didn't we already have this conversation before, Etienne, about this menu or this recipe and whether or not you got high off of it? Seems to me I recall we went through all this once before.
I don't know. I think I was too high. I really don't remember.
Short-term memory, what?
Well,
Yeah.
the reaction that you're talking about is nothing more than emulsification. It's not really a reaction. It's just a physical reorganization of the cannabis oil into what are micelles. And so basically that's exactly what lecithin does. It's a phospholipid that will form essentially these things called liposomes, which are essentially micelles that solubilize fat-soluble molecules like THCA. And so that's probably solubilizing it and then helping it with the biological delivery, which is why you feel the nice onset.
Well, and the quick onset because it's immediately in the gut and the uptake is really fast. That's what really surprised me when I was experimenting with it and just doing these recipes, because back when I was in the Cannabis Action Network house, all we had really was leaf because we smoked all the bud. But to play with that and then to sit there and have a party of 10 to 15 people and everybody's done after a half hour and falling asleep, it was rather surprising to see how fast the onset and how consistent it was across
well, I mean, it brings up the possibility that emulsified THCA can penetrate biological membranes where THCA naked won't because of the carboxylic acid. So maybe when it's emulsified in lecithin, you get a higher partition of biological activity because you get a lot more that's actually being biologically available at that point in time. So probably the onset of activity that has to do with, why you're feeling it is you're actually I don't really think there's a whole lot of decarboxylation that happens at that temperature. It might be only like 20 or 30%. So maybe what you're actually feeling is the biological effect of delivering THCA across the membrane, which is totally cool.
Well, we need some researchers on that now. There you go, people. I've given you the concept and the idea. Now let us know what happens.
Yeah, get it done, man.
Welcome, D420. Let's hear it.
Bong rep, mother lovers. Let's do this.
I got mine. What's up?
Bong rip.
How was your vacation, Johnny?
It was fantastic. We got caught in a big rainstorm. We got drugged around Mexico by tour guides. Won't do that again.
Was that like our cab ride or something in Toronto? Oh no, that was a different guy. Sorry.
That was different. But you know what? Overall, it was a really, really fantastic trip. I got to see all kinds of people who were going to fish because at a resort where the whole resort changed on Thursday, Friday, and we left Saturday. And for 2 days, it was like being with all my friends. It was like awesome. So we were partying all night with everybody who came back from the concert on Friday, and it was like, so it was a lot of fun. I had a really, really good time. Got back to snow in the front yard.
I got Jake with me.
Jake.
And where's the little dabber?
Little Dabs. Over there. My little terrorist. She's crazy.
That's awesome.
Good doggy. I got a funny story though about my cat. My cat's been traveling back and forth the van so much. I was away for about a month, and my kitty started I didn't see him for 4 or 5 days. When I got home, comes home with a blue collar and a bell on. He's over at somebody else's. So he comes by about every 2 or 3 days for that month. Then I finally get a fresh snowfall, and I track him because he come into my cat door, took a piss, and fucked off. I tracked him to the place he was living at. He was staying. So I knocked on the door. I asked the people, "You got my kitty?" My kitty comes out of the door. He's like, he's in there already. So the guy tells me he didn't know he's got a cat door. It was all he was coming into the cat door and everything like he was coming into mine. And I had a few strays coming into my cat door too. I'd catch my security cams. So long story short, shorten it up here. After I talked to the neighbors, they said, okay, we'll lock the cat door and we'll shoo him away and, we won't let him in no more. So he comes in. Mark just says, hi, Jake. And so real cold snap comes here, about 30 below. Fucking, I don't see my kitty. So I'm like, day 3, day 4. I'm like, fuck, I thought I talked to these guys already. So day 4, day 5, one of those days, I go to the next door neighbor and I'm like, you guys got my kitty? And he's like, no, we shoot him out of here. We lock the cat door. Cat hasn't seen him since I came over there. So I'm wake up the next day at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? Spring out of bed from a dead sleep, and I know exactly where my kitty is. When I was snow blowing, I covered a hole that goes underneath underneath my trailer. He was trapped underneath my trailer for 4 or 5 days. So 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm out there in my gaunch and my slippers and my broom handle, jabbing this hole, and poof, my fucking kitty comes popping out. He was so mad at me for a couple of days. I had to go buy canned cat food to lure him, to keep him in and everything like that. But I got my kitty back, and he's happy and everything now. Fuck, I was worried about him. Funny story. Thank you for listening. Ball rip.
We all love our
I want to just say that I'm glad that had a happy ending.
Yeah, I think we're all glad it had a happy ending for sure.
He didn't even look worse for wear at all. He was eating bugs, spiders, mice, whatever down there. He looked like he'd just come out of a little, I don't know, a resort fucking hangout or something. I don't know.
Now your cat's got PTSD. You need to turn him on the pot.
It's kind of it's like a Chinese.
He's sitting right here. He's like,
He ate a roach once, and everybody thought he was dying. They thought he was getting mites in his ears or something. They oiled his fucking head up, and my kids and my ex-wife did this, trying to get all the bugs out of his ears because they think he was freaking out and dying from that. But he was just having a real fucking big high off of a roach he ate. He was fine the next day. How about anybody in here have any stories about their dogs or their cats getting into their stash, and what happened?
Oh, at the can house, we had a 100-pound Rottweiler eat 36 brownies. And this was on the second floor. And the dog could not move for 2 days. We literally had to drag it downstairs to actually poop. And fortunately, it came out of it. But yeah, it was one of those times where I realized we can't let food be unwatched in the can house, because apparently all sorts of animals will get into it. And it wasn't my dog, and the dog recovered fine. But needless to say, it ate 36 brownies. Yeah, it was more concerned about the chocolate than we were about the cannabis, and came through no problem. But after that, we had to hide brownies from that dog because it fucking wanted the brownie.
My sister's Great Dane used to love to eat bugs. And my cat, which is dead now, I had it for 22 years, it would love to eat shade leaves. So if there was a small plant growing in my window, the cat would go up there and bite off one of the shade leaves. It didn't like leaves with resin on it. It preferred shade leaves.
My other dog story was back when I had a band, and I went to go see my friend of mine. And when I went to, he was my dealer, and I scored literally the last eighth of the entire quarter pound or whatever he had access to, and left it on the little table there. And he wanted me show me his guitar, so we go into the other room, and he shows me the guitar, really nice little Gibson. Come back into the living room, and there's his dog Nagusa, just literally licking the last of the inside of my baggie. And I was like, dude, your dog just ate my bag. And he's like, sorry, dude, it's your responsibility. You should have put it in your pocket or something. You shouldn't have left it out in front of the dog. I'm like, oh man, that sucks. And then of course what flashed through my head is then the Cheech and Chong episode, the Cheech and Chong album. Get a baggie. I got to follow your dog around for the next 2 weeks with a baggie.
Smoking Labrador, man.
You sure you didn't just train that dog to do that?
Man, it sucked because he's like, "Sorry, dude, nothing I could do. It's the last eighth." And I was just bummed, just so bummed, and I just looked at the dog, just like it was a puppy. It was just like literally like a 10-week-old puppy. You can't
What's really sad is he trained the dog to hide the weed and then lick his chops.
So my son's got a Chihuahua, and the Chihuahua, when my son's not around, he'll get shoes or pants or a shirt or whatever and start making a nest of stuff that smells like Johnny to remind him until Johnny shows back up again. And he took a couple of bags of weed that Johnny'd been handling and put them in this nest, and we were tearing the house apart, and there it was in Gnarly's nest of shoes and hats and coats.
How many?
How many what?
Coats.
Oh, I mean, you know, he's part Min Pin, part Chihuahua, and he can drag 20, 30 pounds of clothing and 8 or 10 shoes. He builds quite a nest up. I think Chihuahuas have some sort of need to tunnel because he likes to tunnel underneath clothes and stuff and then just stake his face out. And so he's looks more like one of these African animals that's always standing up on their hind legs. He does that a lot. He'll stand up on his hind legs and look around to see what was going on or where the nearest treat is.
It's little known that the Sinaloa cartel actually used Chihuahuas to dig most of those tunnels underneath the border.
All right, Bubble Man wants to pop in here with some music. He's got stuff going on, so let's turn it over to Bubble Man for a second after the comedian stylings of Skunk Man Sam.
He wants us to turn our cameras off as well.
Not enough bandwidth?
Oh, sorry. Guys, you took too long. The song's over. I was trying for like 5. It's funny when you got a mute mic and everyone's telling story after story. There's literally not. So I started typing on the side. They were playing some really nice tunes, but they just stopped as you guys said, let's turn. And I'm going to mute my mic. You guys go back into talking. And when they start playing again, I'm going to mention that we're going to listen to the song. And then whoever you to stop talking. Thanks, guys.
And we're back.
You can
this would be your cue to start talking now.
Off. You can turn your cameras and mic off at the top of your screen when that happens again, everybody. If you don't know.
Well, this is where I was in Jamaica. That's my avatar right now. That's where Mark is right now. That's when we went there. So I think that's just fitting. I think I'll leave that up there for now, and I'll just talk and mute when I have to mute. And can't wait to listen to some good vibes from Jamaica again.
No, you can turn your camera on, John. Everyone can only have to turn your camera off when I request that you guys stop talking and turn your cameras on. And I will do it by writing in the side will show up right on your screen, so everyone should see what I'm typing, and it'll probably be in like 15 or 20 minutes, so feel free to get back into your guys' conversation. Unfortunately, not really be too much of a part of the conversation. Lots of loud sounds in the background here and super laggy, but I am enjoying listening to you guys talk.
So basically the musicians are taking a break and getting high at the moment. Because that's what I used to do when I was playing. Play a couple of songs, like, all right, let's have another.
I got a word for you, a word of the day. Caesar salad. Is Caesar salad? It's a Newfie term. You don't put enough oil in that machine and run it dry, you'll Caesar salad by. It's Caesar salad.
Caesar salad by.
I'm a Newfie, so I can make Newfie jokes. Here's another one. Bologna. What's that one about, Jake?
Bull only.
Bull only.
For a moose license.
Yeah. Bull only. Bull only.
Bologna by.
Bologna by.
Do I have to be Canadian to get this humor?
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it's Newfie shit, man. Fucking total Newfie shit.
Of course, you gotta be Canadian.
Right.
Newfie slang, yeah. When we all get together, it's pretty fucking funny.
I take it is Newfie Newfoundland? What's the reference?
You see, my bro Jake is Newfie, and he has this accent that he's one of my best bros. We spent a lot of time together, and I've razzed him about his accent. I'd be like, what'd you say? All the time. Like, I would fucking bug him. He'd be just, fuck off, bye. Just fucking, I'd catch him in it, or he'd catch me in it after. And then I found out my nationality. I found out because my adoption papers I got sent away for and everything. And my ex-wife actually did all that for me, and she brought my blood family and myself together. And I found out what I am. And what I am is a fucking full-fledged Newfie, right? And I never knew that before. And I was bugging him for years about it. And he's just like, look at you. You're just fucking looking at yourself in the mirror, bugging yourself, bye. But I phoned him up the first time. He was the first one I phoned to tell him I know what the fuck my nationality is. I know what I am. He goes, no, you don't. He says, she knows what she is, bye. That's because I'm a Newfie. So.
That makes it easier for you to understand your friend.
Yes. Yes.
And maybe that's why you could understand him all along.
Probably. It's kind of funny because it's like it's the people that I've gravitated to the most in my life are the ones that are like actually my nationality and shit, right? Like, I don't know how that worked out, but just energies, the universe, whatever it is what it did. So what did it? Okay, fuck it. Bong rep, mother lovers. Too many people not talking. How about a song from Mark? I see your guitar, buddy. What you got?
I was playing the national anthem of Canada for a second. Let's see. Oh, fuck it. I was playing my national anthem of Canada.
How about the Winnie the Pooh Bear? Winnie the Pooh song by Christopher Robin. Can you play that?
I don't know. Did the Grateful Dead ever cover it? If the Grateful Dead played it, then I played it. I don't know. What do you guys want to hear? Let's see. Here, since Mark is down there, why don't we do Stir It Up? Stir it up. Stir it up. Should dab it up. Dab it up. People on Hash Church, yeah, dab it up. Oh yeah. It's been a long, long time since I held you on my mind. I don't know the words, so we'll make it up for you, right?
Then don't sing, please.
Go ahead, sing. Just me and you, stir it up. Oh yeah. Little darling, stir it up. Oh, dab it up. That's right. Sorry about that. Dab it up. What you're smoking. Better than what I got.
Hey, speaking of, what is everybody smoking there in the chat? That's always a fun one to see. What is everybody smoking on? What flavor? Because it's always so different. I always see something new all the time with a new name or a new addition to a name that is modified somehow. Because back in the day, we used to use High Times THMQ to find out what prices or what pot was around the country, because that was before the internet. It was just a sheet in the back of High Times that would tell you what was available and for what price regionally. So that was always kind of funny to see what
the
names were out
market
there.
TMC, right? The market report or whatever
THMQ,
they were
yeah.
doing. Yeah, THMQ, right. How accurate is that? Is that pretty accurate?
We had no idea. We used to laugh all the time. I mean, all it was just guys sitting around in an office going, "Hey, what do you know about your friend over there in the Northeast?
Right.
What are they smoking on?" Oh, okay, because remember, there was no internet, there was no chat rooms, there was no access to anything like that. So that was really the only way to find out about genes or names was either through, circulating through your own smoke circles. But then it was confirmed by being in High Times because it was an actual strain as opposed to somebody just making up some fictitious name.
And speaking of High Times, aren't they making a pretty big move? They're moving out to LA from New York. That's pretty big, right?
Yeah, that one's very interesting. The office, Michael Kennedy, who's the owner of High Times, passed away last year, and their foothold is slipped. You've got other magazines out there with Culture and Cannabis Now, and there's much more niche marketing. There's regional magazines, etc., that have really taken into them. So apparently they're moving from New York out here to the West Coast in Los Angeles. They put out a press release at least on Friday stating that that's what they're doing, which will be interesting to see because they've been such a fixture in New York, but they've had a hard time maintaining their offices. I've been to 3 different offices in the last 20 years where High Times was, and they've been each time kicked out of different situations. And I mean, last time I was there, we were hiding downstairs behind dumpsters with people on both sides looking out for the police because the paranoia in New York City was still that high that nobody wanted to end up in Rikers for the weekend. So we always had to hide to even smoke pot at the High Times office downstairs. I mean, that was bizarre to me, especially after you read about all the crazy freedoms, etc., that High Times offered you regardless. So they're moving to Los Angeles. Don't know if that'll help or not because there's a saturated market there with magazines and circulars, etc., that have basically crept up in the void there, that they've made their own headway. So High Times has to reestablish itself, which will be a challenge in its own self. But they've got name recognition and distribution. But at the same time, we all know that magazines in themselves are waning in the era of the internet.
Yeah, but I thought actually they were an anomaly in that statistic, in that where most printed magazines were actually going down in terms of sales, their actual sales of the printed magazine was bucking that trend a little bit. I don't know if it still is, but
they've kind of always, because they were the only niche. Now with other magazines feeling that niche, they're taking the hits across the board. Needless to say, because back in the day, I mean, I remember back in the 70s, High Times was actually something to read because they had actual journalists and journalism going on. That's changed over time, but needless to say, they still had quite a caliber of writers, cannabis related. But again, with all these other companies, Skunk Magazine, amongst others, that all eats into their demographic and into their regional demographic, as well as those other writers have become established at those magazines. So they have to pull away.
It's the advertising base. It gets divided thinner and thinner.
Right.
And thinner.
That's why they've gone into these regional competitions, because that's where the money is. The money is in the individual people coming through the doors. As we were talking, Todd and I were talking, most of the music nowadays is just a promotion for people to come see your live show, whereas in the past that wasn't the case. But
I can remember when High Times was the most read magazine at the dentist's office.
I've never seen it at a dentist's office, and I would love to have been to that dentist, needless to say.
He wasn't there for dental work. He was there for the nitrous.
That's right. But I remember High Times being pretty well read there at his office because everybody was there for the nitrous.
Hippie crack, huh?
Yeah, hippie crack back in the day. Some of the very first open-minded doctors in California by the way, pioneers on the frontier of getting high. You got to tip your hat to them, those guys who were the very first ones who put themselves on the line so that people could get high. I can remember in those days, if you got a pill doctor or somebody that would write you a script for Quaaludes or something, you would very carefully pass that person's name around to all your friends. Of course, no one makes Quaaludes anymore, but only because they were discovered to cause cancer, like everything else, except pot.
So, Sam, what's going on with the Netherlands nowadays? I'm just not hearing anything positive going on there. Is there anything positive with cannabis going on? And
Absolutely nothing positive in the Netherlands about cannabis.
so they're still just being draconian and still shutting everything slowly down over time.
Yeah, they basically are like a very, very tight sphincter.
As opposed to a loose sphincter?
Well, whatever. All I'm trying to say is that no, the Netherlands, yeah, it's lost its shine for cannabis, and the laws, the infrastructure, everything is much more severe than it was years and years ago.
Yeah, those were the good old days. I remember sitting outside of the green room or damp kring, going in the damp kring and smoking my brains out there. Those were the days, eh?
It's not really a problem for simple smokers or consumers. You know, you can go buy your cannabis and you can smoke it. What they're really trying to crack down is on grows and large scale wholesale dealing.
And that's got to have affected the quality as well as, you know, I mean, I know you probably don't have problem with quality access, but I know others that may.
Yeah, well, I always thought most of the cannabis in coffee shops in the Netherlands had not been dried long enough, amongst other things.
Well, the thing I learned from the cannabis cups is you go to Amsterdam for the hash, not the weed.
Yeah, it's true.
So do you think that the legalization movement here in the States has affected this? I mean, could the
we get some
new
bubble man. Hold on.
Okay, sorry. Is the new cannabis
I didn't mean
capital of
to.
the
I
world
think my
Denver?
lag is set.
Good timing.
So should I go back and ask again or no?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so is the legalization movement here in the States having an effect on taking the cannabis shine off of Amsterdam and the Netherlands? Is Denver now the new cannabis destination on planet Earth?
For Europe, the destination is probably Barcelona.
Okay.
Speaking of, I just got my ticks for, I'm going to Spanibus, so I'll be there. Hope to see you there, Bubble Man, and hope to see you there as well, Sam.
Well, the myth and the rumor is I will be there.
I like the myth and the rumor so far.
How much were tickets?
And I think I'm also going to be there this year because of because me and Franco seem fitting to go to Spanibus, and yeah, I'll see you guys there.
Right on, John. It's not cheap. It's well, flights were around $600 to $800. I ended up with an Airbnb, but the tickets aren't that much to get into the actual event. Plus, I'm there to see people. I'm really not, you know, I'm there to see and hang and see everybody.
I'm sure we will have another Legends of Barcelona while we're there for hashish.
Awesome.
Wow, that would be fun.
Well, it's going to happen, of course. They already said it. Woo-hoo.
Wish it wasn't so far.
Yeah, Barcelona has really become the European destination, with the Netherlands changing everything, and Spanibus has grown. I remember going back in 2010; it was just inside, And the hilarious thing was the entire time you heard in the speakers, there is no smoking in the building, no fumar. And the entire time, everybody's just blowing cone after cone after cone. And I was just dumbfounded because security's walking around and there's nothing they can do. They're just not even trying. And then I went in 2015, yeah, Todd and I were there, and I was just blown away by it's now inside and outside and how large it is, and all the large companies, every seed company, was stunning.
I got 65 seed catalogs from different companies when I was there last year.
65?
65 color catalogs, correct.
Wow, so that should give you an idea, people. That's where it all is happening. The genetics, the reality is, the Spanish law seems to be
from
the Netherlands.
Companies from all over the world. Yeah,
I would say Netherlands, then Spain, but there's like little pop-up seed companies, and I call them little pop-up companies. They probably consider themselves quite serious, and maybe they are serious after 5 years of work. But meanwhile, 65, mostly from Holland and Spain, but then from almost every country, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, America, just on and on and on. And I really enjoyed it because part of the reason is I did start the first one, so I'm attached to the catalogs.
So a lot of quality genetics, or are these from these smaller seed companies, or are they?
I haven't grown the material, so it's hard for me to say. Usually, when you see an example, it's their chosen mother clone that they're using, and whether or not that's an example of what you would get if you bought their seeds, I can't really say. I honestly don't know. But, all the big seed companies are there, so obviously there must be some good stuff, because I think the majority of them are capable of producing seeds that absolutely you can select good plants from.
Because people here in California are now looking with their individual abilities now to grow 6 plants. One of the most popular things at the Emerald Cup was seeds. Needless to say, all companies that I knew of sold out pretty quick.
If you can buy clones, I would think a clone with grafts on it. So you've got 3 clones, but each one has 10 grafts on it. And you could get it so that the scion, the main rootstock, was the latest maturing, and all the rest of it was earlier maturing. You can even put a branch of a male on a female, and they'll just flower sequentially depending on photo period.
Looked like
Long rep.
Bubble Man was, well, he's outside and frozen, unfortunately. It looked like he was trying to say something, but
I guess it's pretty cold there, huh?
yeah, he's got a shirt on.
No, that's why he's frozen.
So, Sam, do you think that there'll still be a continuing seed industry in the Netherlands, even if the...
Oh, yeah, for sure, because it's legal to buy and sell them.
Hey, Bubble Man's up, or I think he's trying to.
Is it going to be legal for you to grow enough among to do all you need to do to produce?
That's enough for now over there, so I don't really want to hear them ending now. Just wanted to show you guys a tiny little peek at that. I feel like I have been. Some of this onto my YouTube and see nice, good quality, and patience, everyone. Taking them longer to figure out that I'm done. Maybe I'll just. I'm for rip.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, man. Good. Yeah, we're live with 767 people.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah, he had his first dad day, and
Crunk.
that was a king hit.
All right.
True.
Dubbing is a must, you know?
Dubbing is a must. That's right. We were talking about Pablo Moses' song "Dubbing is a Must," and we thought we would. Minutes. Geez, I hope we get a couple hours out of it, boys. You still here, D, Etienne, Sam, Indra?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Bon
sir.
rip,
You
mother
are
lover.
here.
Let's go.
Yep.
Oh, they are here. They are here.
Yeah, we're here.
I'm not here. I'm someplace else.
Yeah, I'm next door to Sam.
I think I'm high.
Hi, I'm. Camera. Just,
For another.
just
Yeah.
one.
This.
Here we go.
This
Nice.
Uh-oh.
Bong rips, as it is sometimes on Hash Church.
Bomber.
Is acceptable. What else is going on in the world of cannabis in this past week? Yes. Must. You guys are quiet.
Thought we were supposed
We're
to
listening to you. We're trying to hear you, Mark.
Yeah, we're listening to you, bud. But some things that happened this week.
Now this is everyone's having a hard. Everyone's having a hard time with this. When the music's on, you don't talk, and when the music's over, I'm going to turn my camera off, and the floor is yours.
So I have the latest IACM brief, which is from last week. I don't have this week's, but an increased intake of olive oil in mice increased the number of CB2 receptors in mice. That was interesting. And a couple articles on cannabis and cannabinoid research came out regarding a decarboxylation study of the acid cannabinoids, a novel approach to using high-performance supercritical fluid chromatography, photodiode array, mass spectrometry for cannabis and cannabis research.
And did you see Ethan's new paper on CBD?
Yeah, he asked not to circulate it, so I did see it, but sorry, people, we can't circulate it. You have to actually purchase that one.
Did you see where they managed to carboxylate THC using yeast?
Using yeast?
So marching to the
Leave
beat
my
of
mic
a
on.
different drum. Okay, he's muted now. Yeah, well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So if yeast can decarboxylate, so can yogurt.
Yeah, well, I read the study where they decarbed THC using some yeast variant
At room temperature?
at room temperature.
In a dilute solution?
Uh,
Can you send me? Can you send me the reference?
Yeah, I have to go back, search my history. I read it a couple days ago, but yeah.
Let's see, here's a couple other things. In Australia, the number of people supporting legalization of cannabis is higher than the numbers opposing it. In the USA, the governor of Maine signed a law on cannabis legalization, so it's now will be legal in Maine. Science and Human, topical application of cannabis extract, helpful in cancer wound in a case report. And cannabis use does not increase the risk of stroke in young people, while tobacco does. That I thought was an interesting study. It was a Swedish study. So that's kind of the other stuff is kind of really technical. But yeah, there's things happening all the time. The other thing I thought was interesting was beta caryophyllene promotes the function of osteoblasts, which are bone forming cells.
Yeah.
Those are osteoclasts.
And Ed Chan, did you also see the book from National Academy of Scientists? It was like 440 pages. It was available as a free download.
Yeah, I saw that. That came out because Todd and I were actually at the National Institute of Science originally back in '99. We testified for that original, and that came out. I published it on the Hash Church on the Facebook there, so people can have access to information. Because yeah, it's all about staying up on what's happening.
Yeah, it's just hard to believe in light of the National Academy coming up with this huge volume, which is no more than just a review of all the clinical and preclinical data that exists, that the DEA would say that there's no medical use, right? How could there be no medical use when the National Academy of Scientists basically pulls together this huge volume of all of this work?
And really, Mark, that's only since 1999. I don't think it's pre-1999.
Correct. That's most of the assessment is post. And so that's the thing, is that we as usual have right hand doesn't talk to left hand. FDA doesn't talk to FDA. It's really just really frustrating. They don't even talk to themselves in their own communities sometimes. So it's really frustrating.
It's all political. The DEA is at behest of powerful entities that run things, and the reason the FDA hasn't chimed in on it is they've been told not to.
Well, when Jeff Sessions was questioned at his hearing for being Attorney General this week on Capitol Hill, there were two different senators that asked him questions, and both these senators couldn't ask the fucking question, which is, what is going to be your position when you get in there? The guy from Utah asked some really roundabout question having to do with federalism and it being an issue of separation of powers, which completely skirts the issue. It's not a separation of powers issue. It's a state versus federal government issue. And what Jeff Sessions said was that if people in this country don't think, and he's talking about the United States, don't think that weed should be illegal, then they should tell Congress to pass a law. And until then, I think he's going to enforce the laws that are on the books. Now, whether or not his boss approves of that, who knows what this guy does, because this guy gets pissed off when somebody posts a picture on the internet about him. So it's completely uncertain exactly what Jeff Sessions, if confirmed as Attorney General, would do on the legal industry that exists.
No different than the previous ones, and it didn't stop us from continuing on. And when you've got, again, here's more science, stem cells, which are treated with CBD, may be more beneficial to the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. And the next one is the high concentrations of CBD-induced programmed cell death in healthy white blood cells. So there's more researches and more that it comes out, as well as CBD protects nerve cells in the case of reduced blood supply. These are just things that have come out this week regarding science, and all this is going to start to gain some steam, and already has, and was one of the reasons why we've had pushback against politicians and why we have the Rohrbacher rioter that's, you know, continued to this day is because of this continued research. And this is where we implore you, future researchers and doctors out there watching Hash Church, you know, get educated, get your degrees, and get out there and get researching. So the more that we can add to this stockpile of information, the better it's going to be for everyone, right?
I agree.
Hey guys, I'm going to sign off on this camera here. I'm going to move my laptop into my shop, and I'm going to. We've got our rosin press started up to do a press or two, and show you the bubble hash that I made this last couple weeks, and you know, give you guys something to look at and talk about too. So I'll be back in about 10:15. Keep her going, boys. Peace.
All right, some fresh squishies.
We're waiting for some eye candy.
Yes, sir.
Are you seeing much squishing going on there in the Netherlands, Sam, at all, or you're the only one squishing?
No, there's a little bit, but I don't know people who are spending lots of money to get lots of the better machinery to be able to produce large amounts for resale. But
So you're not seeing it in the coffee shops at all?
I don't go to the coffee shops, to be honest.
You never just pop in for shits and giggles just to see what's going on?
Not unless I'm
There's
taking a guess.
there's no giggles.
I'm not sure what Bubble Man was trying to say. His voice broke up. I couldn't hear it.
Yeah, same. I just heard a blurt.
But I do take guests. You know, if like a scientist is in town and wants to go see it, I'll take them. I took Dr. El Sole to a coffee shop, and he liked it a lot.
What was his impression?
Well, he liked the fact that I was taking him. We didn't really discuss what he thought. He's not a smoker, so. But
I was about to say, he's not really a smoker as much as he's just, doctor.
But yeah.
So it was more novel for him than anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he grows it and deals with it there at the University of Mississippi.
Absolutely true. And
Have you tried any of his suppositories?
No, but yeah, I don't know what to say about that, except for that I got the impression he might have tried it himself.
Does he know how bad the joints are that they're sending out to like Irv?
Yeah, no, he's totally aware of it, but he doesn't produce the quality that he thinks would be best. He produces what is required of him by the NIH or the NIDA, I think.
Yeah, NIDA, yeah.
Yeah, which is who?
If they want more varieties and higher potency, he has the capacity and easily can do that.
Yeah, so this is some non-weed smoking individual, some guy in the government that works for NIDA, who basically decides the weed that goes.
I really don't know the ins and outs, except for that he
oversees it.
5 or 10 years ago, he told me that if they want higher potency, he'll produce it. If they want different varieties, he'll produce it. And I know he can, because he's a pretty knowledgeable guy, and he's got some talented gardeners there working for him.
And they did publish something, I remember reading a few years or last year, regarding the expansion of the plot and the genetics they were adding. I do believe they were adding a CBD variety. I remember reading that. And there is no such thing as G13. Everybody has said G13, which is G for government, 13 for the letter M. G13 does not exist. It's not a governmental strain.
Well,
it's nothing
I
but a
can
myth.
guarantee that, because I was there more than a decade ago, and I asked him about G13, and he looked in his records. He doesn't have anything that was ever called G13.
There you have it.
And it was supposedly stolen from them. And
That's the rumor that I've heard as well. It was a stolen clone.
well, I can't say if somebody secretly stole it, because how would anybody know if they secretly stole it?
It was the same story
But it wasn't labeled
hearing parent from the
G13
government.
they stole.
So there you have it, people. G13 is baloney, and I've heard about it ever since that.
G13 is what it is. It just was not stolen from Mississippi University. That's all.
Yeah, it's a name that's been pervasive out in the atmosphere ever since. It's been fascinating to watch that disinformation perpetuate itself. As I traveled, seriously, when I traveled around with Can all around the country, I heard that story about G13 in practically every state of the United States. So that's how far the myth is.
That's why I asked Dr. El Sole when I was visiting Mississippi Farm.
That's awesome that you got to even ask him that.
Doesn't the story go that it was stolen on April the 20th? I'm only kidding.
That's funny. You sure it wasn't 710?
Well, hey, if we're going to whip up a big story, let's make a good one, man.
Well, that's
that is a good one. It helped market G13 for years.
You can't beat the urban myths. They perpetuate themselves. You know what I'm saying? What can you do? How many people in chat? Okay, if you type yes or no if you've ever heard of G13. Y for yes, N for no. If you've heard of G13. Let's see what the people say.
I remember seeing it in Shanti Baba's garden in Bellinzona in Switzerland in the early green. I was like, oh, well, that's the J13. I call it the G Whiz. Just made me laugh. I think it must have just been a name someone slapped on something, as is everything.
I would say 99% of everybody is saying yes. They've heard of it. Interesting.
Yeah, he tore the chat a new asshole there.
Well, this is what we've dealt with in the absence or with so much limited information out there regarding cannabis. It's everything really spread around smoking circles, and it just shows you how effective for communication our smoking circles were and how people travel to different smoking circles and communicated.
Let's be honest, if it was called G13 without the connection to it being stolen from Mississippi University's greenhouse, or I mean outdoor field, then would people know what G13 was or care what it was, or would it have gotten that widely spread? No, it was the whole story in Shamil that did
story, yeah. Hey, Sam, if we cross G13 with skunk number 1, do we get G14?
No, you get skunk 13.
How does that math work?
No, I'm just fucking with you. I don't know. Try it.
I like that answer. 13.
When I was a kid growing up, the M was a slang for weed. So was 13.
Yeah, it's the 13th letter of the alphabet.
I know the reasons, but I'm just saying that was also too in Laguna Beach back in the 70s. Everybody used to just say, because the brother who was importing lots of hashish into Laguna, they'd say just smoke it, and that referred to both marijuana and hashish.
Well, it's fascinating how many different slang terms. We used to always try to list, and we've come up with hundreds of the different slang terms people have used throughout the years to reference cannabis regionally, all around the country. It's very fascinating to watch it go from, lingo from a lid, which was an ounce back in the day, to today it's referred to as trees, or it's very fascinating the lingo, how the linguistics followed cannabis.
Did it start in America with muggles and reefer?
Well, marijuana itself does not exist linguistically before 1909. We can find no reference. And that's
Well,
as far back as we've been found, or linguists have found, is 1909.
the reason it was called reefer is they realized early on it stank, and so they would bring it in reefer cars and refrigerated cars. And so that's where it picked up the moniker called reefer.
Yeah, in Morgantown, we had actual stuff come in a diesel truck, and we had a contaminated shipment of diesel weed, and we called it diesel weed. And friends of mine started a band known as Diesel Weed, and yeah, it's fascinating what's happened due to prohibition. And somebody will eventually do a full book on the differences, but it's been interesting to see it generationally change. There's some consistency, but each generation seems to add their own moniker or name, from chronic to crippy to all these different lingos that have whatever they are today. It's rather fascinating. Just as a sociologist, it's fascinating just how it is pervasive in all different communities, and how it continues to, because of how prohibition has forced people to be underground. People always had to come up with different terminologies, you know. Back in the day, you had to call on the phone, you know. People would be like, oh, I'll order t-shirts or hamburgers. I need a quarter pounder. You know, all these different things that people have had to do to protect themselves in the era of prohibition, but to still culturally complete the cycle of keeping cannabis moving forward and going out there. They've had to change its name to protect it, you know, because each generation either knows what that is, so they need to change it to alter it, or just for giggles.
Back when they had hard lines instead of cell phones, people would call up and say things like, "You got any of that weed, killer?"
Well, guys, just saying, yeah, you know, that's all about cannabis. Love talking with you guys every day. I'm just in contact with Paul's family and stuff like that. So I'm going to kind of get in the shower and take off. So peace and love everybody. Have a great day.
Much love. Hope sending our best.
Thanks,
Hang in there, Johnny.
Feel better, man. Well, anyway.
And here we are.
We're pretty quiet tonight.
I've been waiting for Mark.
Soon, boys. I'm not hearing anything that you guys say. Every time I talk, everyone talks over me. So I think the lag is too great to continue. Plus, there's much noise here. It's been very difficult to listen for the last hour and a half and hear it be so choppy. I'm hoping that it's going to have recorded nicely and that people won't have it. But I do appreciate that you guys made it in today. And yeah, maybe I'll give one last little of the mountains here and behind, nice and quiet. Yeah, okay, all right. Peace out, everybody.